thing, when we try to do our body opposite, you know, what's actually happening, the thing in general is when we go to high notes, we are thinking higher. So even in our voice is tending to think up, and so everything kind of starts moving up. And the problem with that is that we can get tense feeling if everything starts.
That's what I thought you were supposed to do before I learned this, what you were doing. And I have heard a different analogy where think of going down into the water. You're sinking into the water.
Great idea.
Just mentally.
Because actually, too, you know what? That's a great idea. When you go into water, it's very a relaxing kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like, and there is a buoyancy actually in water if you go underneath it, that, or you know, let yourself float in it. I guess I'm trying to say that can help. I like that.
Yeah.
Look, I mean,
I
all these
just heard
things.
that about a year
Budget
ago.
last week.
Because I really didn't know how you were supposed to achieve those high notes. And I thought, well, if violin, I don't know. I thought that was the principle of like.
There was a book I read in college, and I've kind of reread it since. It was called A Soprano on Her Head. And it was the teacher wrote it. It was actually a piano teacher, but she worked with a lot of vocalists because in college she was an accompanist for a lot of the voice majors. And she was working with a woman, and what she actually had her do was, I kid you not, stand on her head. Now, I don't usually take people to that extreme, but she did it because everything the woman was doing standing up was creating tons of tension in her body. If you're all of a sudden doing this, I mean, not that you want to try it at home, but if you felt like, hey, or like to see what it feels like, think about this even. When we were little kids, probably all of us maybe even did a somersault or cartwheel or anything. Your body gets used to a lot of different motion, not so when we're adults. You know, unless we're purposefully trying to do, I remember in yoga one time I had a teacher that actually got me to do a headstand, and it was such a weird feeling because I hadn't done it for probably 20 years. And all I'm trying to say is that if trying to get your body so that it's in places where you don't feel all the tension that you normally do, we have to try something drastic sometimes, just to get it out of that mode. It doesn't mean you're going to stay there, and obviously if you're singing, you're not going to be like, you know, ah. But it might be that you picture that as you sing it. And a lot of times it is picturing. I still picture certain things, like the way I approach a high note. There's a way that I picture it in my head so that I'm prepared for it. And it's probably different than how someone else pictures it, but the point is, it allows me every time to be relaxed when I hit that high note. So
The opposite is true when you're going to sing something very low too. I forgot what that picture was, but it was
like it's ascending,
yeah,
like a bird maybe going up or
yeah,
something, or
something like that.
right, because you don't want to think that I'm in the dungeons, you know, like da da da.
And I would think that that's how you achieve a low note, you know, but no, it's.
And by the way, the same thing I was thinking with a low note. If I went da 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 and I try to almost get myself rattling, even physically, there might be a tendency. Remember how I did this? Put your hands here and yawn. Your vocal cords go down, which is normal for yawning. But again, your vocal cords, when you're singing, you don't want them hanging down or hanging high. Either way creates some tension on your vocal cords. They need to be pretty relaxed in the middle, resting they call it, even when you're singing. So, and actually I said this before too, as the day gets longer or you've had full days, your body gets more tired, so it tends to want to send less breath through those vocal cords. And that's why it's especially important of thinking about the breath when you're singing, you know, maybe even late at night. I mean, the morning is a different story that you deal with, but you know what I'm saying? It's just having enough of that breath to go on. And all these visual pictures that help the body relax. Because, again, I know I've made reference to Olympic sports, but I think it's where we can see it easily. When people have trained and done so much of that training, they know the things that will help them move the best. Their bodies are able to relax enough to be at their peak. I remember watching, this was a few years ago, but remember Michael Phelps, the swimmer? And he still is competing. He still hasn't really lost. It's amazing at the top of his game, but he had one of his goggles. It was a race, and somehow water got in it, while he was swimming, which usually doesn't happen. But he said he was so used, and he won the race. And it was basically, he said, I've learned how to train my body to relax, so he didn't panic. I'd be panicking in that situation, you know, I can't see.
I drown.
Yeah.
Get the bottom.
But it is the same way when we're singing. If we can train our voices and our bodies to be in a point of relaxation. I thought for you, Nancy, for getting up here the first time tonight, you did great. You know, you didn't let your body, even though it might have felt nervous, you didn't let it encompass you of that. And really, all of you guys, when you've been singing, I've been really pleased that you've just been really going for it, which is great. A lot of people don't do that, so well done.
Yeah.
Yay. I will let you guys go. Next week, just make sure that you come prepared to sing the whole song again for the end of the evening, because we will be writing really positive, healthy critiques. I shouldn't even say critique, because I don't want to think it's not critical. We're finding positive things we're going to write for each other when we do the performance the second hour. But I probably will work again, if we can maybe work through your song again, and your song again, maybe your song again, and then Norma. Pat too. I don't know. So we'll see how it goes, but that first hour I'll try to kind of do more of this masterclass stuff. We'll talk about consonants and some other technical things, and then we'll have a performance.
Is that our last class?
It's our
Oh,
last
I
class.
thought we
4.
had
Can you
two
believe
more.
it?
I
It
thought we
is.
had 6.
No,
One of 4.
no, we only have
Okay.
4.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
You know, it's strange. I've had this, because this is my 4th class I've taught this fall of voice classes, and they've all been 4 weeks, and I've had that with every class where even I'm like, what? We're on the 4th week, because I feel like I just barely got to know you guys in